What's up, guys? My name is Tony, aka Son of the Bat from the Super Friends podcast, and you are watching the Hall of Justice.
It's clever and tough. That could blow up the...
Welcome back, everyone, to the Hall of Justice, where I go over each week's new comic books. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time last week to make an episode. I just want to let you guys know that here on out, it'll be a little bit smoother. And of course, before I get started, I want to go ahead and let everyone know that I'm recording out of San Diego Comics, one of San Diego's oldest comic book shops with one of the largest varieties of back issues, and where you can always get brand new books and trade paperbacks for 15% off. And I'd also like to let you guys know that on the 15th of this month, it's considered National Batman Day. So what does that mean for you guys? Basically, all of our Batman-related back issues are going to be 25% off. But there's a catch. That discount is only going to be good for people that come in wearing anything that's Batman-related and is visible. We don't want to know that you're wearing Batman underwear, unless it's a part of a costume. In which case, we'd probably see it anyway. So, guys, again, mark your calendars for the 15th, which is next weekend, where officially it'll be Batman Day. And we will also have a couple of copies of Batman White Knight, which were reprinted just for that day. So if you guys get in early enough, you might be able to snag a copy. So to go ahead and start things off, I actually went ahead and read Bully Wars by Scotty Young and Aaron Conley on the art. So this book actually came with a couple variants, in which cover B was actually done by Scotty Young himself. And for those of you who don't know who he is, a lot of his artwork is very cartoonish. To start things off in Bully Wars, we do have a group of kids all meeting up for their first day of high school. But unfortunately, as they wait at the bus stop, their middle school bully, Rufus, starts to bully them, which is pretty fitting. So anyway, the book follows them to high school, where, crazy enough, Rufus finds out that he's not the biggest bully on campus, and actually starts getting bullied himself. And little does Rufus know that there's actually a thing called the Bully Wars, where bullies from all over the county of this town, which is called Rottenville, come together to figure out who's the biggest and baddest bully in town. And what we see towards the end of the book is the kid that he's actually bullying in the beginning wants to go ahead and help him win the Bully Wars. So for those of you guys who are very familiar with Scotty Young, this is going to have the same feel as I Hate Fairyland, but at the same time, it's a little bit different because it's not very fantasy at all. It was definitely a fun read, and it was something different from what I typically read each week. But I highly suggest it. And again, that's Bully Wars by Image Comics, written by Scotty Young. Now moving right over to DC and starting off with the Sandman universe, we have The Dreaming #1. Now, this of course spins out of the one-shot Sandman, which came out a couple of weeks ago and is establishing the new Vertigo imprint that DC's bringing back. Now, without showing too much of what's actually in the book, mainly due to the fact that it is a little bit more mature, this has been one of my favorite reads this week. Reason being that I was never actually introduced to the Sandman until recently with the one-shot. And although this is not written by Neil Gaiman, but Simon Spurrier, it still had that same feel as the Sandman one-shot. What we know right now is that the king, or Daniel, the Sandman, is missing from his kingdom. And during this period of his absence, we see the kingdom actually falling apart, with cracks actually showing up in the sky. A new character that's in the book actually starts taking advantage of this situation and brings a demon into the realm. However, Lucian, the librarian, dresses himself up to look like Daniel, and the demon, not knowing any better, decides to leave. And another thing we start noticing in this story is the fact that Lucian is forgetting a lot of stories and quotes that should be in his library. So like I said, if you guys started reading the new Sandman off the one-shot, you're definitely going to enjoy this one. I highly recommend it, and again, that's The Dreaming with the Vertigo imprint by DC Comics. Now, moving over to Marvel, there were a ton of #1s that I'm super excited to share with you guys, but the first one is actually Asguardians of the Galaxy, which is actually kind of an Infinity Wars tie-in. So immediately in this book, we're introduced to characters like Angela and the Destroyer, but we're not told quite yet who's wearing the armor. And we're also introduced to another character named Annabelle, who happens to be kind of an alter ego to Valkyrie. A couple other characters on the team that we see are Thunderstrike and Throg, the frog version of Thor. What we come to find out is that Angela and the Destroyer armor is trying to put this team together of Asgardians to first really figure out who's killed off all of these dwarves. And immediately we find out that Nebula is the one responsible. Now, of course, a battle ensues, and then we're given an explanation as to what she was looking for. But towards the end, there was a bit of an Easter egg that was shown to us earlier in the week online. And that's the fact that the person piloting the Destroyer armor is actually Kid Loki, whose first appearance was actually in Journey into Mystery, Volume 3, after the storyline of Original Sin. So when I first heard that this book was coming out, I did not know how to feel about it at all. One, because I wasn't really a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan. I know, don't kill me. But I highly recommend this, and I'm definitely going to be sticking with it. So if you're a patron and you're enjoying this title just like I am, please let me know and I'll go ahead and continue sharing it for you guys. So again, that's Asguardians of the Galaxy from Marvel. Moving forward and starting with one of our first annuals for this week is Old Man Logan Annual number 1. And of course, as you see on the cover, we do see an Old Man Punisher as well. So through this story, basically what we're taken back to is the Wastelands, or where Old Man Logan is originally from. And we're shown a time when a group of gang members calling themselves the Punishers is going through towns and ransacking them, killing all the men and taking the boys to have them be a part of their gang. Immediately, one of the mothers of these kids that gets kidnapped asks Logan to get her child back. And during this process, we have Logan come across Frank Castle, who is aged about 50 to 60 years. And in all honesty, he kind of looks like Clint Eastwood right now. So throughout this whole book, I was actually reading it as if I was hearing Clint Eastwood talk. What we come to find out is that the Punisher, the original Punisher, Frank Castle, has actually been hunting down this gang, stating that he's been losing his memory and the reason as to why he became the Punisher in the first place. However, he's still as deadly as always, just a little bit older, which ends up benefiting him and Logan as they're both hunting the same people. What we find out in regards to the Punisher's comment about losing his memory is the fact that he had no more pictures or journal to remind him of his family. And these are items that were stolen from him by the Punisher gang. Towards the end of the book, he does make peace and pass away. But one of the greatest things about this book was actually the last storyline towards the end of the book, which was titled Punisher Wasteland Journals. Now that small story is actually written by Ryan Caddy, who also has a project coming out for Image called Infinite Dark. But the cool thing about this story is the fact that it takes place years after the uprising of all the villains on Earth. And so we have Frank Castle just dealing with this whole situation on his own. So we basically got two different stories in one book, which is always great and pretty common for an annual. But if you've been reading Old Man Logan, I highly suggest picking this up just to continue your collection. And if you haven't, it's a pretty good jump on point just to get a single story. So again, that's Old Man Logan Annual number 1. The next book I want to go ahead and share with you guys is a book that actually doesn't have an ongoing title, but has an annual this year for some reason. And that is Silver Surfer Annual number 1. Now, one thing I want to go ahead and let you guys know right off the bat is that there is a variant cover to this book. But unfortunately, if you guys order through previews, it's stated that the person doing the variant was Adi Granov. Unfortunately, that isn't actually the case. And the variant that we were given was actually done by Marcos Martin. So for those of you expecting a completely different variant, unfortunately, none of us got it. But with that being all said and done, the story in this book is very interesting. Now, of course, with it being a Silver Surfer Annual, that is exactly who we come across in the first couple of pages. Norrin Radd, which is actually his given name, starts narrating about how he's the Herald of Galactus and what that entails. And as he's sharing with the reader exactly what he needs to do to help satiate Galactus's hunger, he comes across a planet that seems to be inhabited by insectoids, or human-like insects. He immediately realizes that they're continuously at war with each other and feels that there's no hope for this planet, so it makes it the best candidate to feed to Galactus. However, what he also finds out is the fact that there's a subspecies of this race that lives underground. This subspecies is actually a lot more technologically advanced than their surface-dwelling cousins. They decide to share the song of their people to Silver Surfer, understanding that Galactus is going to eat their entire planet and that they will all cease to exist. They share this song in the hopes that the Silver Surfer will be the only person to remember them and the fact that they ever lived. This unfortunately drives the Silver Surfer mad as he tries to fight Galactus from eating this planet. But as we know, Galactus is the one who gave Norrin Radd the power cosmic. And in doing so, is also able to remove any memories. And so to ease the Silver Surfer's pain, he removes his memories completely of this new race. Towards the end of the book, we have Silver Surfer again narrating exactly like he did in the beginning of the book. But in this case, instead of going to a planet that's inhabited by insectoids, he finds Earth. So the story was, in a sense, it was kind of sad, to be honest, but it was really deep at the same time, just to show you exactly what the Silver Surfer has dealt with the entire time he's been a herald for Galactus. It's an amazing read, but it is kind of unfortunate that it's coming in an annual, which doesn't really give us any clarity in regards to whether or not there's going to be an ongoing series. But for now, with this annual, I highly recommend it. Again, that's Silver Surfer, Annual number 1. Now, moving on to something that I've been waiting for a couple of months and am super excited about and was really happy to read, was a Thanos Legacy Special number 1. Now, for those of you who finished off the last Thanos series, of course you know that Donny Cates wrote this one as well. Donny Cates, of course, being one of the hottest writers at Marvel right now, writing titles like Cosmic Ghost Rider, Death of the Inhumans, and of course Thanos Legacy. What we get in this book is an explanation of what happened between Thanos wins and the first issue of Infinity Wars. Now, of course, one of the greatest things that came out of the pages of Thanos was the Cosmic Ghost Rider himself, who ended up being the Punisher, Frank Castle, who was bestowed the power cosmic by Galactus, as well as the spirit of vengeance by Mephisto, making him probably one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe. And what we see in this book is Thanos going back in time and actually meeting up with Mephisto, beating the hell out of him, no pun intended, and telling him not to touch Punisher, to basically leave him alone so that he never takes the route of becoming the Cosmic Ghost Rider. Now, of course, as we know in comic books, things don't always go as planned for the characters. And again, if you've been reading Infinity Wars, you do know that Thanos does get killed by Gamora in her Requiem armor. And what we find out in Thanos Legacy is that right after he's killed, Cosmic Ghost Rider still exists. We also come across another character that was very prominent in Thanos' life, Star Fox, Thanos' brother. And while Star Fox is speaking to Cosmic Ghost Rider, he tells him that there's something inside of Thanos' heart that's probably one of the most dangerous weapons in existence. Now, this of course was a really good read. In regards to the storyline, there wasn't anything that was going to pop out for anybody. And the reason I bring that up is because Donny Cates has been writing a lot of stuff that's been speculative and connecting to a lot of older series. But speaking of older series, another Easter egg that we got towards the end of this book, and it was spoiled a little earlier this week, is the fact that Donny Cates is going to be writing the new Guardians of the Galaxy. So again, like I said during the share of Asguardians of the Galaxy, I've never really been a fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy series, but with Donny Cates being on it, I'm so stoked. I'm 100% in, and I can't wait. So for Thanos Legacy, I highly recommend it. Again, anything that's Donny Cates, I'm always on board. So definitely pick up an issue. Again, that's Thanos Legacy number 1. Now, to keep it Donny Cates related and Thanos related, the next book I'm going to share with you guys is Cosmic Ghost Rider number 3. Now, as you guys can see right off the bat, we're introduced to Juggerduck, Old Man Cable, Iron Groot, a new Captain America who's actually Kamala Khan, and Jubilee for some reason. Now, what we found out in issue 2 is the fact that we have the Cosmic Ghost Rider kidnapping Thanos as a child, trying to raise him differently so he doesn't become this galactic murderer. But in doing so, it of course changes the future, in effect creating this new Guardians of the Galaxy, which is immediately destroyed. And after multiple slide-by 1s, 2s, 10s, 50s, 100, which we see in this amazing splash page. Unfortunately, none of them even make a dent on Cosmic Ghost Rider. At one point, we do see baby Thanos kind of get in the mess himself and start fighting with Cable's arm. And of course, with all of this time and space-changing reality stuff that's going on in this book, one of the craziest panels that we're left with at the end is the Thanos-sure. So again, like I said with Thanos Legacy, anything Donny Cates right now, I'm picking up and I'm loving. And that, of course, includes this book, again, Cosmic Ghost Rider number 3. And just to remind you guys, this month is actually Cosmic Ghost Rider month, so a lot of your regular titles for Marvel are going to have a cover B that has the Cosmic Ghost Rider in it. So if your retailer has them, definitely ask them to hold one for you. Moving forward, the next book that I'm sharing with you guys is actually a weekly series that had its first issue come out last week. That, of course, is Venom, First Host. Now, if you read the first issue, we were finally introduced to the Kree soldier who had the symbiote before Eddie Brock did. And way before Spider-Man even had it. Well, in issue 3, we actually come across Eddie fighting a Skrull warrior. Unfortunately, after this battle, the Kree warrior does get wounded, and Eddie Brock decides to take him back to Alchemax. And after talking to Eddie and giving him a brief history about his relationship with the symbiote, we find out a little bit more about how the symbiote got attached to the Kree. Unfortunately, what we come to find out is the fact that he does have his own agenda with the symbiote itself. However, he also recognizes that a symbiote does not change hosts unless it chooses to itself. So the Kree ends up creating an ultimatum. Either his original symbiote comes back with him, or his new spawn, which was born in issue 165 of the last volume of Venom, will be killed. The symbiote ends up agreeing and decides to join itself with this Kree soldier again, leaving Eddie Brock alone with the afterbirth of the symbiote's spawn. First Host has actually been a pretty fun read for me, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, again, Donny Cates is on the main title of Venom. However, Donny Cates is actually not writing this title, and we get to see Mike Costa back on Venom. It's definitely an interesting read, and I want to see what else happens with this new spawn coming from the symbiote. So again, that's Venom First Host. I highly recommend it. Pick it up from Marvel. Last but not least, the final issue I want to go ahead and share with you guys is actually issue 7 of the Avengers. And as you can see from the cover, we do get to finally figure out who this original Ghost Rider is. So immediately we're told and narrated by this original Ghost Rider, the first from millions of years ago, about his tribe and where he came from. He also talks about this hunter that met up with his tribe, who unfortunately killed everyone in it, and who we later find out is one of the first Wendigos. So as this child, whose only name is given by this Wendigo as Ghost, tries to hunt him down, he finds himself at the cold of winter, where a white serpent actually finds the child and starts speaking to him. The white serpent starts telling the child that he can give him anything he wants if he just says his name. And slowly but surely, the child mutters out, Mephisto. This, of course, turns him in to the first Ghost Rider. And one of the coolest things about this Ghost Rider is the fact that he's riding a flaming mammoth. Later on, we do see this Ghost Rider go toe-to-toe with the Wendigo that destroyed his entire tribe. And towards the end, we do see him team up, finally, with the original Phoenix Force and Odin. So the cool thing about this book is that it stands alone on itself pretty well, and it's a really fun origin that shows us the history of the first Ghost Rider on Earth. So again, guys, I highly recommend this read. It's Avengers issue number 7. So guys, that's all the books I wanted to go ahead and share with you this week. But I want to let you know that you guys can definitely have control of what I'm sharing with you guys every week moving forward. All you gotta do is go to patreon.com/tsfpod and become a patron. And for as little as $1 a month, you get to decide which books I share on next week's episode. So again, if that's something that you guys are interested in and it would definitely help support the channel, go to patreon.com/tsfpod and become a patron today. As always, I want to go ahead and shout out Joe June for creating the intro to this YouTube video. You can follow him on social media at Joe June Music and at Vision Flow Records on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, guys, again, if you're ever in San Diego, come on down to San Diego Comics, where all back issues $10 and under are 25% off. And don't forget Batman Day on the 15th, where if you come into the store wearing anything Batman related, all Batman related titles are going to be 25% off. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Later.
It's clever and tough. That could blow up the